On today's episode, we're going to dive into franchise financing for the startup business models, right? So what banks are lending, what SBA programs are available, and what to look for. So first off, I always start with what is the franchise? What is the concept, right? Is it an emerging brand? Do they only have 2 or 3 locations? Or is it a very established brand where they have 50, 100, 200, 300 locations? That's really going to be dependent on the lending appetite. Also, there's the SBA directory, which they discontinued, but everybody still looks at the SBA directory. And now FranData provides a certification where some banks say, hey, if it's certified by FranData and not on the SBA directory, we'll make these loans. And if a brand is not, a franchise is not on the SBA directory, I do have banks where I can send the FTD and they will sometimes approve those franchises. They usually limit the threshold of what their tolerance is. So they might say, well, we would do 5 loans max of $200,000 on this franchise the first year to see how they perform. So there's ways around it. So first is, what's the franchise brand? Then we dive into the borrower themselves. What's your background? Do you have outside income? How's your credit score? What are your assets look like? What do you have liquid? What will you have post-close liquidity wise? These are all the general questions I would ask to assess what particular lender would be the best for the situation. So I act as, let's call it a broker or an advisor, and I help navigate to figure out what lender will be the best for this particular franchise. So really starting with the franchise itself, and if it's a newer brand or if it's a very established brand, if it's just a service-based business with no brick and mortar location with a heavy build out, a lot of tenant improvements, all these things are going to play into what bank might be. For example, low liquidity borrower wants to buy some sort of home service franchise model. You know, I've had one circumstance recently where one of my colleagues had it declined from another SBA advisory group who is like, I call them a master broker, and they said, oh, they don't have enough liquidity. Well, one bank I work with, they're building in working capital in the loan, so they're okay not having 10% post-close liquidity. So knowing these thresholds. Another time recently, a gentleman was out of state and wanted to invest in a franchise concept and stay in the state he resided, but he was wanted to open this franchise model in a different state. So most lenders say no. For example, some banks say, look, you got to be in a 2.5-hour radius. Does that mean all lenders will say no? No. If there's compensating factors, we can sometimes get these deals done like we just did on that deal. So first is, there's not one size fits all. It's really a discovery call. A lot of people get advised to do a Rob's rollover if they have an eligible retirement account. Well, that might not be the best vehicle, because if you're looking to utilize the cash flow today, you should check with the CPA and see what the tax consequences might look like, as opposed to not funding it using a Rob's rollover plan. So, just because you can do it doesn't mean it's the best thing for you. So understanding this. So what people do is they book a call with me. They say, look, I'm looking at, investing in this franchise. I research the franchise. I can, most of them I know, but obviously there's 3,000-4,000 franchises. So sometimes there's a newer brand that I don't know. I do the research. I see if it's approved. Some of our lenders will do up to 90% of total costs. Some of them will do 80. Some of them do 70. So knowing what your equity injection is going to look like, what your liquidity is going to look like. And if it's a smaller deal, most of these lenders use the SBSS credit scoring model, which is basically created by FICO for SBA loans. And it's from 0 to 300. And most lenders want you to score 135 or better, 150, 155 or better, depending on the investor or the lender for this deal. So all this comes into play if there's build out, if there's not build out, if the franchise is established, or if it's a newer franchise, is it on the SBA directory? Is it certified by FranData? This is all the stuff I do. My team and I, we do in the background to figure out what is the potential of getting this done. So if you've been told no, feel free to reach out. Maybe I have a solution. If you're just getting started and you're looking at franchises, you're getting ready to make a decision, and you really want to understand what the financing looks like. A majority of the banks usually are around 80% on a startup, but it's not unheard of to get 90%. So my small ticket lender does 90% loan to cost. That's pretty standard with them. So it just depends. And then what we do is we have a wider net of lenders. We don't just rely on 2 or 3 of the big lenders that do the majority of the franchises, because there's a lot of other SBA, PLP means they're preferred lenders for the SBA, that are really hungry to do franchise deals. So let me know the story. The questions we went through earlier is really what I need to do a quick assessment and then provide feedback. Rates are tied to Wall Street Journal Prime. It's a 10-year term if there's no real estate involved. No prepayment penalty. So it's Wall Street Journal Prime plus a margin. Margins are usually the max depending on the loan size. As long as it's not a micro, it's going to be a max of about 2.75. However, if it's marginal credit deal, we do have something called the Community Advantage Program. And if it's a projection-based deal, their margins can be slightly higher. So, but that's usually you would use that program if the personal credit score is a little bit lower. In general, you're going to be looking at a 2.75 margin or less. Now, who gets a better margin? Well, each lender is different, and potentially going to the right lender, if you might want to put down more equity into the deal, there's lenders that will give you a lower margin. So it really just depends on the overall what you're trying to do, and then solving the equation by figuring out the best lender for what you're looking to do. So anyways, that's really franchise financing in a nutshell. It really comes down to understanding the franchise, understanding where the borrower is at and what the ask is. And then there's all the other caveats that come into play, like multiple franchise units. A lot of times people want to buy 3, 5, 7 territories. Well, typically you're only going to finance what you're going to build out the first year. So if you're going to open 2 the first year, you're going to finance those franchise fees. The additional franchise fees would have to be paid out of pocket. So understanding if you're doing 5, we call them 2-pack, 3-pack, 5-pack, understanding how many units you're looking to do. Is it just 1? Is it 5? And getting that story up front. And then you should know, because you now have the FDD, which is the franchise disclosure document. You're going to be looking at item 7. You're going to be building out your own investment range, franchise fee, working capital, truck lease, marketing budget. That we need to know what your estimated total project cost is going to be, and we can finance up to 90% of that. Now, if you're a little bit light on reserves, can you get gifted the equity injection? Yes, you can. Can you bring in an investor partner that owns less than 20% and doesn't have to be a guarantor of the loan? Yes, you can. So there's ways around a lot of this stuff. It's just knowing how to solve for those equations. That's about all I wanted to talk about on this episode. If you have franchise financing questions, let me know. You can also be extremely creative. Let's say you want to do a real estate play. You could potentially use a 504, SBA 504 for the real estate and a 7A for the franchise, and you could actually own the real estate, because some of us are looking at this as an investment in our portfolio. So we're real estate investors. We want to own real estate. So this could be a good way if you're going to occupy at least 51% of the space on an existing building. Now, if you're building ground up, from day one, you're going to occupy 60%. Anyway, hope that helps. That's how you get your franchise funding fast. Just go to Book with Bo. I'll meet with you for 15 minutes. I can usually assess this scenario very quickly, give you good feedback, and that's what I do day in and day out. And if you're looking to find your ideal franchise, we do have a division in our companies that we actually help you and take you through our process to help you identify the best business model for you. You can find all this and more. Go to bookwithbo.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hello, and thanks for visiting our website. If you're interested in getting on our weekly email distribution where we compile a list of available franchise resales, then go ahead and enter in your information below. If you want more of a customized search done for you based on specific brand or business model, then go up top and book a discovery call. We'll create a custom business search for you, and we'll be emailing those, which will be a little bit more specific to what you're looking for. But if you're just starting to dabble and you want to just get on the general list, you're more than welcome. But if you are really interested in making an acquisition in the next 60 or 90 days, then go ahead and book a call above. and we'll build a custom search on the resale inventory. So anyways, thanks. Stop by. Feel free to look at some of the articles we have on the website, and I look forward to connecting with you at some point. Hey guys, Bo Exian here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.